Welcome back. This is part 4 now. We're going to continue drawing our figure drawing here. If you're comfortable with where you're at and you know that you just need to go and do this, then go ahead and do this. But I figured while I'm at it, I might as well keep drawing and keep walking through how I think as I'm drawing. So you're going to hear me talking about where my eyes are at. You're going to hear me talking about what I'm doing on the board. My figure so far has that sash really noticeable. We can start to see those rib cages, and I'm going to clean up lines as I work until I've got something that I think is a passable example of a figure drawing. So I've got these forms mapping out. I'm looking at where lines are falling. I'm going to next build in this arm that is closest to me. So this is one that from where you're at is tucked behind a little bit. And I'll actually take a picture and share the picture of how I'm looking at bones, so that way you can see where and how that's existing. I'll post that to the Google assignment as well. So I've got the lapel up here, which means this shoulder kind of angles down, and then this arm comes down. I'm going to clean up this so that I can drop my lines where they should be. You might be asking yourself, Mr. Reynolds, why are you bothering drawing or sketching that out loosely if you're just going to erase it? The reason that I'm sketching it out is I can't just start with the contours. In fact, the vast majority of artists are not able to start with just diving into something like this. They're going to need to go through and map out and kind of plan, if you will, your space. So this is the same idea as those thumbnail sketches that we're doing, except I'm doing it as like a first stage of drawing the actual thing. So this fold actually comes around, and then I've got a little bit of this jacket that pops out over the back. But there's this really distinct fold that comes down towards the bottom of the sash and then cuts across. And I'm going to come back and map in some of those specifics of that in a minute. And then I've got the bottom collar of the sleeve. It's a little bit folded up. So I'm working basic forms, basic shapes, and then I'm going to come in and clean up as I move. So I've got this edge. Looking at where I'm at. Again, notice how much my eye is bouncing back and forth between my subject matter and my drawing of that subject matter. I've got this edge, so I'm going to need to map this in. There's this curve or curl to the jacket, to the cut of the jacket, that I'm going to want to render, because that's going to help me later on with my values. Seeing if that disappears behind the lapel. And then I've got this fold, really dark in here, and the jacket sleeve kind of starts off here. So this is that inner edge of that jacket sleeve, coming down. I'm ignoring some of those lines that I have, mapping it out, so I'm going to clean those up. So if I were, I could come through, I could clean up this arm, erasing anything that's not actually visible, and erasing those lines that are only there so that I can build this form well. So do you see how this is already starting to take the look and feel of this guy? Clean this edge up. So his jacket kind of pushes out behind him here. And then we've got a nice rich fold. So I'm going to start by just mapping a line for. I'll come back and flesh those out a little bit more later. All right. On the other side here, I have his coat. One thing I can do is I can map visually using my ruler or my pencil as a straight edge. So if I were looking, and when you were drawing me as I'm standing right here, and you wanted to get this nice, sassy little lean that I've got, you could use your tool, line it up with my head, and see where my head falls in line with the rest of my body. And you'd see that my head is centered over this far side or short side of my hips. So that can be really helpful as you're looking at mapping out and figuring out your spaces. So I'll get this cutting down. I might come in and start looking at some of the detailing on that sweater itself. It's got this nice little ribbing in the front. If you're wondering whose clothes Mr. Bones is wearing, or Bones is wearing, these are just clothes left in the art room over the years. So if you leave things like a leather jacket or sweater or your homecoming stash, know that it might end up on one of my figures. And then I need to get this other arm figured out, don't I? So this other arm opening is right down here. And I can actually see up into that sleeve more than I can on this other one. And so that shape is going to be a little bit more determined. And then I can see the Bones' wrist popping out there. And now that I look at that, that's in the wrong place entirely. So I'm going to erase. Bottom edge opens up right around here. It is okay to make mistakes. Okay to goof. It is not okay to then just leave those once you see what you do. Someone once said, air is human. We do not expect you guys to be better than decent humans. Right, so this sleeve's coming up. And it kind of gets lost in some of the badness of over here. So I'm just going to clean this up for now and then move on. Notice that even for me, who has been teaching art and doing art longer than you have been alive, this is not a quick process by any means. So if you feel like you're moving too quick, you probably are, and you should slow down on that. So I'm just really paying attention to what's going on in the form. I'm going to come in and look at kind of the center parts of these other ribs, extending out the other side. Start mapping those in. Actually, now that I look at this, I have one less rib in here that I can actually see. That's going to be one of those things that I'm going to just... Because this looks like a passable rib cage in there, right? So as an artist, there are times that we have what Mr. Reynolds calls artistic liberty, and I'm going to take the artistic liberty to just pretend that that last rib doesn't exist. That's why I'm not a doctor, because you don't want your doctor saying, well, let's just say there's not a rib there. It is okay if your art teacher says that. Alright, so I need to clean up in here. I might even show some of, as I'm working through back in here, I can see some of the ribs on the back side of that form. So I'll come in and do some of those later when I'm dropping values. Those are going to be much darker than the ribs up in the front. Now I need to come in and do some work on the head, right? Because Bones' head looks better than this. I'm going to clean this edge line up. I'm going to start with that concept of like mapping out where the eyes and the nose are. So I've got this curve. The way I'm getting this curve line and this is I'm looking at if I were to draw a line straight down Bones' face, how is that angle? And then if I were to draw a line straight across their eyes, how is that angle? So that's going to help me as I'm working on some of these other forms. I can look at the edge of that nose cavity there. down. Teeth are coming all the way back over. I'm going to lightly mark in some of the edges of those teeth just to give the illusion, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some more work on that. I'm not done by any means. I'm done to his face. I do want to start playing with some of those values to create the look and feel that I'm going for with this drawing. All right. Well, I'm going to leave this here for now. I'm going to go start building some things in Google Classroom. If you want and you enjoy this concept of like drawing alongside Mr. Reynolds, come to Open Studios. I would love to see all of you there. Otherwise, I will see you in class on Thursday.